Hi, this is Mrs. Reister with Lesson 7.1, Writing and Solving One-Step Inequalities. And we are going to specifically focus on addition and subtraction. To begin, let's go over some vocabulary terms. First, we have the word inequality. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that shows the relationship between quantities that are not equivalent. So they're not equal. Now specifically, an algebraic inequality is one type of inequality, but that these contain at least one variable. So how do we solve these? Just like with solving equations, we use properties of equality. Solving inequalities, we use properties of inequality. So we solve these just like equations, but the properties we use are the properties of inequality. So how many solutions do inequalities have? So unlike linear equations that can have at most one solution, so that's what we were doing in Module 6 where there was only one solution for x or whatever the variable was. Inequalities can have many solutions. Its answer is a range of numbers. And you'll find out how to find those in just a while. So now let's take a look at the properties of inequality, specifically with addition and subtraction. So the addition property of inequality states that you can add the same number to both sides of an inequality and the inequality will remain true. So recall back to solving equations from Module 6. We know that whatever you do to one side, you must also do to the other, and that holds true with inequalities as well. And then we have the subtraction property of inequality that states that we can subtract the same number to both sides of the inequality, and the inequality will still remain true. So let's refresh our memory on the inequality symbols that we often use. We see these, but now we're going to see if we can recall what they mean. So the first one is a symbol that looks like this. And that is a less than symbol. And then we have the opposite of that, which is a greater than symbol. And then we have symbols that look like this. So that looks like a less than symbol with a line underneath it, which actually represents less than or equal to. And then likewise, we have the opposite of that, greater than with the line underneath it, which represents greater than or equal to. So the thing to note here is that without having any numbers involved, or without having any numbers with the inequality sign, it's important that you can just recognize what the sign is when you have just an isolated inequality sign. So for example, if you see this, you know that that is a less than symbol without looking at any of the other numbers. So now let's do some practice exercises, practicing using these inequality signs. So we're going to compare two quantities, and we are going to use the inequality to make that a true statement. So for A, we have 25 and 19. Well, I know that 25 is greater than 19, so I'm going to use the greater than symbol. And now for B, we have negative 13 and negative 5. Well, the greater the negative number, it actually means it's much smaller. Negative 13 is much smaller than negative 5. So negative 13 is less than negative 5. And now we're going to look at A here for warm-up number 2, and it says Z, and then we have the less than or equal to symbol, and 8. So now we're just going to write it out in words. And this just states that Z is less than or equal to 8. So to make sense of this, the possibilities for Z are endless. Z has to be any number that is less than 8 or 8. B, we have x plus 4 is greater than 12. So we're going to write that out in word form here. X plus 4 is greater than 12. Alrighty, here ends the first page of your notes. Continue working through the notes to learn how we solve these inequalities.